2025 is around the corner, and between the several rumored sets, there are several sets that we know nothing about yet. Today I compiled a list of 10 sets that I think we need to see in 2025, and these are sets that are in dire need of a remake or that we simply haven't seen before in a certain way. Of course, these are my own ideas and nothing is set in stone. Jumping right to it, I want to look at the AT-OT. This isn't a set I have really talked about before, although it is a set many fans have been talking about and hope to see next year. We have seen the AT-OT once before, a part of the beloved Republic dropship with AT-OT set, which is widely considered as one of the best LEGO Star Wars sets ever made. We haven't seen either of these vehicles remade after this set, and I think with the 20th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith, the AT-OT would be a perfect larger scale set for this wave. It would look good alongside the recent AT-TE set and would include a handful of good minifigures from the Felucia scene, such as Ayla Secura, last seen in 2017, as well as Commander Bly, as well as some 327th troopers. We haven't seen these clone troopers since 2007, and I think a set like this would be the perfect way to reintroduce them to LEGO Star Wars sets. Darth Vader's TIE Advanced is one of the most iconic TIE Fighter variants that was last depicted in LEGO in 2016. I think this would be the perfect standalone set in 2025 that would replace the TIE Bomber that I believe will be retiring at the end of 2025. And also just looks good alongside the set and the TIE Interceptor we saw previously as well. The version of this ship in the TIE Advanced vs A-Wing set was incredibly good, and in my opinion a near perfect design. But as the set is almost a decade old at this point, it is rather difficult to come by, and I think a new and improved version of the TIE Advanced is necessary sooner rather than later. We would of course see Darth Vader in this set, and I would love to see Grand Moff Tarkin as well, as we haven't seen him in any set after the previous TIE Advanced, as well as the Death Star in the same year. We could also see an added Stormtrooper in the set, or some other Imperial crew member. Similarly to the TIE Advanced, I think we need a new A-Wing Starfighter set next year. The last time we have seen an A-Wing was in 2019, but this was based on the Rise of Skywalker. The previous Rebel A-Wing was in 2017, and it was a really good set that was honestly a bit overlooked. I think this is a necessary set to have a new version of, as we are seeing several iconic Rebel ships being remade every few years. But the Rebel A-Wing hasn't been seen in 7 years at this point. The 2017 version included a good version of Lando Calrissian, and I think something like this could be really good again. Or some other Rebel leader such as Mon Mothma perhaps. We would also get to see a new A-Wing pilot minifigure and some Rebel crew minifigures as well. On the topic of Rebel vehicles, I think it is really necessary to see a new version of the Rebel Y-Wing. The last time we saw a Rebel Y-Wing was also in 2017 in the form of the Rogue One Y-Wing, which I consider as one of the best sets at the time. The Y-Wing is probably one of the most iconic Rebel starfighters, just behind the X-Wing starfighter, but despite seeing several new X-Wings between 2017 and 2024, we haven't seen a single Y-Wing playset other than the Rise of Skywalker version. This could be a generic set from the original trilogy, including a Y-Wing pilot of course, some new astromech droid, and then also some new Rebel leader minifigure to build up a Rebel line of leadership. Another Y-Wing that I think we should see, and that I have talked about a lot before, is the Clone Wars Y-Wing, specifically Captain Rex's blue Y-Wing starfighter. I can't imagine that we would see both the Clone Wars Y-Wing and the Rebel Y-Wing in a single year, but I really think one of these sets should be made next year. Captain Rex's Y-Wing makes sense in my head, as we saw the microfighter earlier this year, and I can imagine LEGO would want to create more Clone Wars based sets, including characters such as Ahsoka and Captain Rex, as these characters sell incredibly well in modern LEGO Star Wars. Additionally, I would hope to see some characters such as ARC Trooper Jacey, who we have never seen before despite being quite a prominent character in the Clone Wars Season 7. This set would also be a much needed remake to the 2009 Clone Wars Y-Wing, and I think would just sell incredibly well and be beloved by the fans. On the topic of the Clone Wars, I think we should see a new Vulture droid in 2025 as well. In 2025 it will be more than a decade since the previous Vulture droid, and just in general we are lacking separatist based sets, and I think it is time to change this. This could be based on the Clone Wars or Revenge of the Sith of course, but I think a Clone Wars version might be more likely, as we aren't necessarily going to see many Revenge of the Sith sets next year. We could see some buzz droids in this set, as well as some battle droids or super battle droid minifigures, and then some miscellaneous separatist character that wouldn't really fit into any other set, perhaps someone like Wat Tambor or Admiral Trench. Alternatively, we could get a new droid tri-fighter, last seen in 2014 alongside the Vulture droid. This is probably one of the coolest separatist vehicles, and I think it looks so cool in LEGO Star Wars, and definitely in need of a new remake. If we could see so many modern remakes of the droid gunship, I think this one is definitely likely eventually, and 2025 could work well once again. I would love to see the rocket battle droids return in this set, as we haven't seen them since the 2010 version of this set, and I would once again want to see some separatist leader as an added minifigure as well. Who knows, maybe even Count Dooku, although I think there could be some better sets to bring this character back. The final Clone Wars set I want to talk about is the Clone Turbo Tank. This is a vehicle many have been hoping to see next year again, and I think it is likely to be seen sometime soon. However, I don't think a remake of the Kashyyyk version of the set is necessary just yet, and I would rather want LEGO to make a more specialized version of the set, as seen with the Coruscant version of the Republic gunship. This time I would love to see a Wolfpack version of the Clone Turbo Tank in the different greys that could make this stand out compared to the previous versions. I don't think this is necessarily something seen on screen, but regardless would be a fun and unique way to make this set and make many fans happy. We would see Commander Wolf in his Phase 2 armor, as well as some Wolfpack troopers and maybe even Plo Koon, and then some battle droids for them to face against. Alternatively, this could be an Imperial turbo tank as seen in the Bad Batch, and I would still hope to see Wolf in this version of the set as well. Of course, I still think there are some Revenge of the Sith sets that we need to see next year, and one of which definitely being the duel on Mustafar. I have talked about this one previously as well, specifically as a diorama set, but unfortunately that doesn't look like it will happen. Instead, I think a playset might still be likely, and whether it actually happens or not, I think it is worth mentioning as a set they should really make. It should be larger than the 2020 version, perhaps at the same scale of the Duel on Peridea or the Obi-Wan vs Darth Vader set. This one could just have a bit more to it, with detailed builds for pieces of the structures or broken down parts in the lava, and of course the two mining droids. I would like to see Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker of course, but perhaps we can see some added minifigures such as a second Anakin Skywalker in his burnt up look, as well as Emperor Palpatine and two shock troopers. The final set I want to talk about is Palpatine's Arrest. The 2013 version of this set is one of the most beloved sets from this movie, and one so many people want to see again, as either a playset or a diorama set. This is now a set I think would make for a better diorama set next year, and although a playset with all the necessary characters would be so good to see as well, I think a diorama with only the characters from the second half of the scene is much more likely and would make for a really interesting set. The build would only be the end of Palpatine's office with his desk area and the windows behind, and it would depict the scene where Windu loses his hand and Anakin ultimately turns to the dark side. We would see a new version of Palpatine in his red robes, but with a scorched face print, Anakin Skywalker, and then also Mace Windu, which is a fair combination for something such as a diorama set. Overall, I think these are the sets we need to see next year. That would easily make this one of the better years of LEGO Star Wars. Comment what sets you reckon we need to see, and then I will catch you in the next one. God bless you, and cheers.